Welcome to the tutorial Harmony 10 Additions. In this tutorial, I'm going to go over one or two new 2D, 3D integration features that were added in Harmony 10. So the first one being that you can now import a .fbx file. So Filmbox file, as we know, stores motion data along with 2D, 3D audio and video data. So it's a pretty nifty file to be able to now import into Harmony. And you do this in the same way that you would import a .osb file. So you would go to the top menu and select File, Import, 3D Models. And then the Import 3D Models browser window opens up and you can browse for your file. So I happen to have saved mine on my desktop. It's the pickup.fbx. I'm going to select that and then click on Open. And once again, I'm going to create a single layer named Pickup, the name of my file, and select OK. So you can see that the truck now appears in the camera view, the top view, and also here in the network view. And you can use a .fbx file in the same way that I showed you can use a .osb file. So the first thing we would do is we would select our pickup truck here in the timeline view and add a parent peg. Then we would double click on the layer, you can also do on the module, and we'd like to enable 3D for this object. I'm going to hit enter and then close my window. And then what I want to do is actually make this smaller because right now it's actually huge in the camera view. So I'm going to grab my corner, hold down shift to scale proportionally, make it small enough to appear in the camera view, and then bring it down. So I'm going to switch to the translate tool and bring it down. And I think I made the classic mistake once again of having the animate mode on, so a keyframe was created, but no matter, I'll just leave it like that for now. You get the point. And I'm actually going to rotate it as well so we can see it at a nice angle there. So unlike what I showed you for the .osb file, you actually don't have to add a render Maya batch module between your 3D object and the composite in order to see it in the render view mode. So right now we're in the OpenGL mode, and let's go to the render view mode of the camera view. So if you see here, we can see the 3D object with its textures, which is not something we were really able to do with a .osb, but it isn't as good quality as what you would get if you use the render Maya batch script to produce a render through Maya. You might not be able to see this now, but I'll show you a comparison in a few minutes. But what this is great for is that it can be used to do tests and other intermediate renders quite quickly, whereas rendering in full 3D would take a lot more time. This also means that you can prepare and render out scenes with 3D modules without needing to have Maya installed and configured on your computer. So let's do a quick little animation. You can see both that in the render view, and I'm going to do a render and play, that you're able to see your 3D object move with its textures. So let's just extend our exposures here in the timeline. I'm going to go back to the OpenGL view, and maybe the top view might be easier to animate. So I'm going back to the first keyframe. I'm going to use my transform tool. I'm going to slide my car out of view. Actually, maybe I'll just slide it here. Let's go 40 frames later and pull the car a bit forward. So we can see that our pickup truck has been animated. Then if we click on the render and play button, so we'd like to render them again. And you can see here in that preview that your 3D object can be seen moving, and this type of a quick preview was not really an option in Harmony 9, and it is in fact a new feature in Harmony 10. So let's close that. And as a last little tidbit of information, the reason that you can now see your 3D object in the render view is because the software is actually taking the images that are produced in the OpenGL view and it's falling back on those images in the render view mode. So now let's add a render Maya batch module to our network view. And if you recall, it's supposed to go between your 3D object and the composite. So I'm just going to hold down Alt and drag it across to attach it automatically. And now if we go to the render view, you can see that there was an update that was created. And I don't know if you can see this, but in the soft render view now, this 3D object actually does look soft. All the edges are fully anti-aliased. You can see the lighting. You can see the textures aren't hard-edged and sharp, but they actually look soft and smooth and more natural, more organic like they should. So let's disable the Maya batch render for a minute by hitting the keyboard shortcut D. And you can see right away that there was a dramatic change in the render view mode. The lighting changed immediately, and that's because any of the lighting that was associated with this file can no longer be seen. Also, I don't know if you can see it, let's zoom in a little bit here by using the number 2. You can see that these black lines, or even the outline of the 3D object, is very jagged and pixelated. And then if we go back to the network view and we re-enable the Maya batch renderer using the keyboard shortcut A, you can see now in the soft render view that these lines are soft. There's not as much hard pixelization. There's some anti-aliasing going on. The lighting changed once again. These muddy streaks seem soft and organic. So once again, that comparison I think was pretty obvious. And this happens because the OpenGL view, and like I said before, the render view takes frames from the OpenGL view when you're not using the Maya batch renderer. So the OpenGL view is not a real renderer. And so in order to see a real render of your 3D object, you do have to use Maya in order to see all the effects, the lighting, the textures, etc. properly. And I didn't get into it in this video tutorial, but having a Maya batch render module is not the only step in being able to see your .fbx file rendered properly. If you check out the previous tutorial, I show you how to set up a .osb file, and you would use exactly the same procedure for a .fbx file. And that's just to copy all the textures from your original Maya binary file into the elements folder of your Harmony scene, specifically into the element folder of your 3D object. So in this scene, importing FBX file, in the elements folder, there's actually a folder called pickup, where you would find the original .fbx file. That's where you would copy your .mb file as well as the textures. And you have to be sure that both your FBX file and your MB, your Maya binary file, are named in exactly the same way. So that's it for the tutorial, Harmony 10 additions, and it's also the last tutorial in the 2D 3D integration video tutorial series.